It's our 125th year, and I know that many of you were here when we celebrated our centennial 25 years ago. Irvington Presbyterian Church was formally organized in January of 1886. The little white church was erected that year, and the first meeting of the congregation was held in September of 1886. For our centennial in 1986, we decided that we would do several smaller events rather than just one big event, and I'm going to mention just 3 of those. We did publish a wonderful book of history, and I know there are a few copies floating around, and if anyone would like to borrow one, I'm sure they could do so through the office. On Saturday, April 26th, 1986, we did a Mission Peak climb and relay. Joanne Logan made a wonderful stained glass cross, not very big, just a little one. You'll see it out in the narthex. And we took that cross to the top of Mission Peak one beautiful spring Saturday morning in 25 years ago. A large number of our congregation met at the staging area behind Ohlone and climbed to the top of Mission Peak. My one and only time to climb. I'm delighted I did it. I'm thankful I made it. Thanks mainly to sweet Danny Garrett. Is Jean here today? I don't know. But toward about the last 300 yards, you know, my health is horrible now, but then it was pretty good, really. But the last 300 yards, it gets very steep, and I was really dragging behind. I was the last. And Danny, who was only probably 13 at the time, came back and walked with me the last of the way. And I always was very grateful for his kindness and his encouragement. After some time enjoying the views from Mission Peak, we gathered round and said a prayer and then headed down the mountain. And each family, each person took turns carrying the stained glass cross. We ended up at Mission Boulevard, headed north to Driscoll Road, and then headed west to Annie Claire and Gordon Gregg's home on Driscoll. And there we had a lovely garden party in their backyard, which was overflowing with blooming fruit trees and flowers, and it was just a great afternoon. And then Sunday morning, on the 27th, other people went to the Greggs and carried the cross the rest of the way to our church. And that morning, to open the service, Dr. Don Warren, who was the oldest member of our congregation at the time, opened our service by carrying the cross in. And you'll see that cross out in the display case in the narthex near the restrooms. And the display case was built, 3 ladies from our church had it built to house memorabilia from our centennial celebration. Another event that we did was to publish a cookbook, my absolute all-time favorite book. This one's traveled 45,000 miles in a motorhome. It's been to Hawaii many times and to Canada 3 times. It's totally falling apart. If any of you have one of these books and have given up cooking and are downsizing cookbooks, I know a good home for one. Anyway, I do want to just briefly read. We put in here our history, 100 years, and I will give you just this brief little reading. In March 1884, the Disciples of Christ Evangelist made his way to the services of the Christian Church held in the chapel of Washington College. There, Reverend McHatton met Professor Judge Durham, a member of the faculty. After agreeing on the difficulty of getting townspeople to attend chapel services, Reverend McHatton commented that he thought he could raise enough money to build a church in town if he knew someone who would start the contributions with $100. Reverend Durham promptly agreed to donate that amount. Reverend McHatton kept his word and headed a fundraising drive that culminated in the erection of the Little White Church in 1886. The Christian Church of Irving was formally organized in January 1886 on land donated by the Walters family. Alfred Ricks built the first church near the intersection of Washington and Fremont Boulevards. Reverend McCullough, another Washington College faculty member, was the first pastor. To him goes the credit for bestowing the name of Irvington on the town that was formerly called Washington Corners. During the early years, the Irvington Church was shepherded primarily by student pastors. Judge, and incidentally, this was his first name, he wasn't a judge. Judge Durham was killed in 1914, but his son, Dr. J. Haley Durham, provided the steady influence needed for the next 50 years. On June 3rd, 1923, the majority of those attending the then named Irvington Community Church decided to affiliate with the Presbyterian domination. At that time, the church recorded 13 members and 1 elder. An addition to the original church was constructed in 1950. After a new church site was secured, and this site where we worship today, and a temporary sanctuary, the social hall, was erected in 1958. The Little White Church was raised in 1959. Construction of the present sanctuary was completed in 1964. Our church members now number 258. We have a senior pastor, an associate pastor, 12 elders, and 15 deacons. May God continue his blessings. Now that was 25 years ago. Ron Fong has donated himself to become chair of a 125th anniversary celebration, and he's looking for members of this committee to help plan events for the fall of the year so that we can really celebrate in a fine way our 125 years of existence. So if you want to participate in being on this committee, please see Ron or give him a call. And I hope you've enjoyed this little minute in our history of Irvington Presbyterian Church.